I was married to Zhou, the Marquis of Yongchang. He already had two concubines, one who had followed him through years on the frontier, and another who had long served his mother in the household. The noble girls who disliked me mocked that I was stepping into a fire pit. Even my own mother was deeply worried, but I stayed calm. It's all right. I can manage. Being the mistress of a noble household won't be so difficult. Chapter 1. My name is Claire Song, the legitimate daughter of Duke Cheng's household. Born with beauty, I stood out among the noble ladies. The emperor once hinted to my father that he intended to betroth me to the crown prince. But the position of crown princess was coveted by all. With consort Mei whispering in the emperor's ear, he changed his mind and appointed her niece instead. To eliminate me as a threat, consort Mei persuaded the emperor to bestow me in marriage to the Marquis of Yongchang, a man 10 years older than me. My mother fell ill from anger, and my father could only sigh. The Marquis fought on the battlefield since he was 12. 14 years of campaigns, countless achievements for the court. To marry him is a blessing for a daughter of the Song family, I told my parents. I even had those words spread deliberately. The emperor was pleased when he heard, and consort Mei praised me for knowing my place. My future in-laws would have no reason to find fault with me. But behind closed doors, my mother clutched my hand, pale and weak. The Marquis's household is complicated. I pity you, child. Zhou was 26. He had two concubines. One was his deputy general's younger sister. She had followed him for 6 years, skilled in strategy and horse riding, brave and sharp, beloved by him. The other was a concubine gifted by the late Empress Dowager, a well-educated daughter of an official, graceful and beautiful. After the old Marquis passed away, she remained by the Dowager lady's side and now managed the household affairs. One enjoyed his love, while the other enjoyed his mother's favor. No place was left for me. That was why no noble family wished to marry their legitimate daughter to Zhou. Daughters of concubines were beneath his standards, while noble daughters would suffer too much in his household. Thus, when the imperial edict came, the entire capital waited to see my downfall. At that time, Ethan was still on the frontier. The Ministry of Rights began preparations and our wedding was set for a year later. I sent someone to inquire about him. Not the officials, but his old nursemaid. She had long since left his household, but I found her. From her I learned 2 things. Ethan loved archery, and he had a sweet tooth since childhood. So I began my preparations, practicing archery and perfecting sweet pastries. My cousins laughed, grasping at straws. A general has seen countless women, many can shoot, that won't impress him. And what man loves sweets? You're wasting your effort. Even my mother worried. He's in his 20s now, his sweet tooth was only as a boy. My aunt urged me, focus on household management, take the account books from his concubine the moment you enter. That's the real duty of a wife. You're not competing to be a concubine, stop fussing over his preferences. But I carried on. I practiced archery daily, 2 hours at a time. At first, my arms ached and swelled, but soon I grew stronger. I also continued learning management from my mother. I had trained since I was 8, but now she taught me deeper methods, including subtle tricks that couldn't be spoken of openly. The year passed quickly. 3 days before the wedding, Ethan returned to the capital in triumph, handing over his command. His beloved concubine returned with him. 2 days before the wedding, a young woman in red rode past my family gates and asked the guards, "Does Miss Song not dare to show her face?" It was deliberate provocation. The servants dared not tell me, but I heard anyway. I didn't go out. She laughed loudly, called me a coward, and rode away, leaving my maids fuming. I only smiled faintly. On the eve of the wedding, an anonymous letter warned me to run away, that the Marquis was cruel and murderous. I told my mother, when one act ends, another begins. It is my turn now. She clutched my hand in tears. Claire, feign illness and withdraw from this marriage. It's a dragon's lair. How could we refuse an imperial marriage? Would you see our entire family executed? I said calmly. The next day, my wedding day arrived. My brother carried me to the bridal sedan which took me to the Marquis's estate. After the ceremony, the bridal chamber was filled with noisy merriment. When Ethan lifted my veil, gasps rose around me, whispers reached my ears. She truly is a beauty. A face to shame the flowers. I quickly lifted my gaze at Ethan. broad-shouldered, skin bronzed by years at war. With his strong brows, high nose, and thin lips, he looked every inch the heroic general. Standing there, he resembled a crimson-tasseled spear. His dark eyes fell on me, unreadable. I lowered my gaze again. Later, the female guests left. My maids helped me change. An hour passed before Ethan returned. A maid entered and said, "My lord, Madame Yu is unwell. The dowager lady requests your presence." Yu was the concubine favored by his mother. The other, Chan, was the one from the frontier. On my wedding night, it was Yu who summoned him away. Ethan glanced at me. "Rest well. I'll be back shortly." He returned deep into the night. I was sitting under the lamp, quietly eating lotus root cakes I had made myself. Startled, I asked, "My lord, how is mother's health?" "A small matter, nothing serious," he said. Then he asked, "What are you eating?" "My own pastries. I brought them from home." I offered, "Would you like to try? They go well with yunwu tea." He sat down, took one bite, his eyes flickered, though he said nothing, and reached for another piece. We ate in silence. Finally he said, "It's late, rest." I agreed. That night, under the flickering candlelight, the taste of sweet cakes lingered faintly. Chapter 2. I wanted to conceive quickly. But after our wedding night, Chan completely monopolized Ethan. He only came to the main courtyard for appearances, yet every night he stayed in her chambers. That one night in the bridal chamber had not left me pregnant. It was clear Ethan favored Chan. Both Yu and I could see it. Yu suffered more than I did. She was deeply in love with Ethan, while I was not. For her, watching him favor another woman was torment. For me, Chan's provocations mattered little as long as she didn't go too far. Yua had been bestowed on Ethan by the late Empress Dowager. As a daughter of a court official, educated and beautiful, she was ambitious by nature. She was no mere servant. She began to compete openly with Chan for Ethan's attention. With her knowledge of household tactics and the dowager lady's support, Yu soon provoked Chan into losing her temper. One day, Chan slapped Yu across the face in public. The dowager lady was furious. "Claire, you handle this," she said, not wanting to scold her son's beloved concubine directly. I followed the family rules and sent Chan to kneel in the ancestral hall. But Chan had grown up on the frontier. She was wild and disobedient. She beat the maid escorting her, seized a horse, and tried to escape. I immediately mounted another horse to chase her. My maid handed me my short bow. Chan laughed when she saw me coming. To her, a sheltered wife could never match a frontier rider. But as she galloped, I notched an arrow and released it at the city gate. The arrow struck her hairpin, scattering her bun. Startled, she slowed. "Stop," I shouted coldly. "One more step and I'll aim for your left leg." She sneered, not taking me seriously, until a sharp pain in her leg sent her reeling. At that moment, Ethan appeared at the gate, blocking her way. He had seen everything. Chan collapsed before him, weeping. "My lord, they bullied me while you were away." Ethan looked at her quietly. "Chan, do you want to return to the frontier?" She froze. "What?" "If you wish to stay here, you must not force the lady of the house to ride out and chase you. Do you understand the rules?" His voice grew stern. Chan faltered. "But my leg?" He glanced at her injury, then at me. "Carry her back," he ordered. Her wound was not deep. Ethan himself sent her back to the ancestral hall to reflect for half a month. That evening I prepared soft jujube cakes and new tea for him. He ate 3 pieces before asking what happened. I lowered my eyes. "Perhaps you should ask Chan. I fear." "I want to hear it from you," he interrupted. "You are my wife, granted by the emperor. You are mistress of this house. Your word is the one I trust." So I explained briefly, smoothing over both sides. I did not speak harshly of either concubine. Then I added, "Yu was a gift from the Empress Dowager. She has served loyally for years but has never shared your bed. Without children, she feels insecure. Her anxiety is understandable. As for Chan, her carefree nature is what makes her special to you. Neither mother nor I ever sought to change her temper. In truth, neither of them is wrong. The fault lies with me for failing to keep harmony." Ethan quietly ate half a plate of cakes. He seemed content. "It's not your fault. You are new here. I'll handle it." I thought he would spend the night with you. Instead, he merely visited her briefly, scolded her, and returned to me. While Chan was confined, Ethan stayed in my chambers every night. He was young and strong, and his passion was relentless. I was confident. Soon I would be with child. I was satisfied. As mistress of the household, I needed an heir. One night, he whispered in my ear, "Your archery is remarkable, Claire. The royal family did well to grant me such a wife." That night, I barely slept. I longed to return home and tell my mother my year of effort had not been in vain. I had said before, being the wife of a noble house would not be hard for me, and indeed, I managed well. But though I was full of confidence, things did not unfold as smoothly as I imagined. Chapter 3. Ethan stayed in the main courtyard for half a month. Then Chan was released. She had learned her lesson. Tearfully, she apologized to Yue and to me. That very night, Ethan went to comfort her again. Life settled into calm routine. Yet when my monthly cycle arrived on time, I realized I was not pregnant. Despite all my planning and confidence, disappointment struck me hard. Before marriage, I had learned from Ethan's old nursemaid that he once gifted a bow to a young lady before leaving for the frontier. That lady later died in childbirth. His nursemaid also told me he adored sweets as a boy. Some preferences never change. A man may have many women, but when he sees a woman skilled with a bow, his eyes will still brighten. No matter his age, tasting a good pastry will always stir his appetite. That was why I had chosen archery and pastries to catch his attention. But my cousins mocked me, calling it desperation. My aunt had urged me to focus on managing the household. They thought it easy to say, "Be the lady of the house, not a concubine." Yet how should I begin? By snatching the household accounts from you. That would only earn me resentment. I needed to move carefully. My first priority was Ethan's favor, at least enough to bear his child before the others. With a child, my position as wife would be secure. Time would give me the chance to learn the household politics. Even the dowager lady would soften toward me if I proved dutiful. The accounts would be mine eventually. There was no need to rush into a fight I wasn't ready for just yet. With a child, everything else would fall into place. So I thought. But fate struck me across the face. No matter how often Ethan stayed with me, I did not conceive. Perhaps the problem lay with him. Chan had been with him for years and bore him no children either. If so, then without an heir I would face a hard battle against Yue for authority in the house and for the dowager lady's favor. The thought gave me a fever. I told my maid quietly, "Don't spread the word. Fetch me some medicine." But news spread anyway. The dowager lady came with you. Ethan brought Chan. She felt my forehead. "She's burning, call the physician." Then to Ethan, "Claire is a sweet child but too frail. In this, she is no match for Yue." Standing beside her, Yu looked calm and gentle. "Yue, prepare a daily bowl of bird's nest for her from the household accounts," the dowager lady ordered. "She must be nourished." I lowered my gaze and agreed. My attendants were furious. My nursemaid even wept. "So biased, you're the wife, yet she speaks as if cursing you to die young. She praises you in your face." I comforted her. Yue has been with her for years. Their bond is deep. Naturally, she favors her. The truth was, Yue could manage the accounts forever if she wished. As a concubine bestowed by the Empress Dowager, she was no ordinary mistress. She could easily overshadow me. I had hoped Yue and Chan would fight, while I benefited. The dowager lady, however, wanted me to fight Chan, keeping Yue safe. After this, I knew, winning the dowager lady's favor was near impossible. My only hope lay in bearing a child. That night, Ethan returned. He sat by my bed and held my hand. His palm was rough and calloused, brushing my skin with a strange tenderness. I was not used to it. "Mother's words were harsh," he said, "but she only meant to care for you." So he had heard the meaning behind her words. I could have wept and pleaded for sympathy, but I refrained. That was Chan's specialty. Instead, I smiled faintly. A daughter-in-law must keep her ears deaf and her mouth shut. "What is there to hear, my lord?" Flushed with fever, I spoke lightly, and he was stunned. Then he laughed. "You are a good wife," he said, stroking my cheek. The physician came and assured us it was nothing serious. A little medicine and sweat, and I would recover. That night, Ethan chose to sleep beside me, though usually illness kept others away. He stayed, holding me close. And yet, even as he kissed my forehead, I could not silence the resentment rising in me. I thought, after half a month of intimacy, why had no seed taken root? But he didn't notice my thoughts. By morning, my fever broke, and I recovered. Later, I politely refused Yue's bird's nest, telling her, "It's unnecessary. My maids already make some for me." She smiled faintly, As if mocking me, I added, "For a moment I thought my illness was pregnancy. But no, my monthly cycle came." Her expression faltered. I pressed further softly. "Perhaps it's my youth or weakness. If Ethan stayed with you instead, you might succeed where I fail." Her face changed. "But you're so busy with household affairs. Neither I nor mother could manage without you," I said sincerely. When she left, her expression was twisted with frustration. The dowager lady might praise her, but when it came to children, she had no place. And I reminded her of it. Chapter 4. 3 months after I married into the Marquis of Yongchang's household, Ethan almost always stayed in my room. He only occasionally visited Chan, and even then he no longer spent the night with her. As for Yue, nothing had changed. Still, I was not pregnant. My health was good, and my monthly cycle came regularly. There was no reason I should not conceive. So I concluded the problem must lie with Ethan. Chan had been with him for many years and had never given him a child either. I wanted to persuade him to see an imperial physician, but such a matter would hurt his pride and might provoke his anger. That winter, the capital suddenly turned cold. On a day of rest, Ethan took me to soak in a hot spring. Steam rose in the pool. He held me on his lap and asked in a low voice, "Do you know how to ride a horse?" I bit my lip and did not answer. In this, I could never compare with Chan. He rose to fetch wine. He drank a mouthful, then fed me one in turn. Soon we were both half drunk and we made reckless love. Later, snow began to fall. Snowflakes landed on my shoulders, melting into the hot spring water. The ripples spread outward, gentle at first, then surging to the pool's edge, as if unable to be contained, as if wanting to break them apart. I was exhausted, half-dazed. In my mind I wondered, this man seemed so strong, so fierce, how could he fail to produce children? If he truly could not, how would I secure an heir? The Zhou family had only one son for 3 generations. If Ethan could not produce an heir, then adoption would be inevitable. Whose son would we adopt? At some point I drifted into sleep. When I awoke, the hot spring still steamed outside the window. A heavy snow had fallen overnight, turning the whole mountain white. Ethan held me from behind and murmured, "Sleep a while longer, Claire. Last night wore me out." For a moment, my mind went blank. The mountains were silent, the snow covering all traces of the past. In that instant, it felt as if there was no one in the world but him and me. When we returned to the estate, Yu's expression turned anxious, while Chan cried until her eyes were red. That night, Ethan went to comfort Chan. I suddenly felt myself pulled from the pure, quiet hot spring retreat back into reality, into the Marquis's household, with all its people and turmoil. Chapter 5. After the snow, court affairs grew busy. Ethan was absent from home for half a month. For the first time, my monthly bleeding was late by 2 days. When Ethan finally returned, he first bathed and changed. That night, when he reached out to hold me, I pressed my hands against his chest. "My lord, could you spend the night with Chan instead?" He froze. His smiling face darkened instantly. "My monthly cycle is late," I explained truthfully. "It has never been late before." Ethan was a keen man. He sat up abruptly, his gloomy face breaking into joy. "Truly? I don't know yet. Summon the physician." He was already about to leave the bed. I pulled him back. "No rush, my lord. It's only the beginning. What if?" "How do you feel?" he asked. In truth, I felt nothing at all, but I could not dampen his joy. "A little heavy," I said. We waited together for half a month. I was anxious. Ethan was even more so. Each night he stayed in my room, avoiding strain, chatting idly with me. My monthly bleeding never came. It was almost certain I was pregnant. Finally, the imperial physician came to take my pulse. I was indeed with child. My heart settled at last. I wondered why I had not conceived in the household, but after one night in the hot springs I had. Perhaps in the estate I had always been tense, enduring without joy, but that night in the mountain retreat had been different. Even when I awoke, I had felt dazed, as if the snowy world truly held only him and me. Once we returned, Chan clung to him again, and I immediately woke from that dream. When news of my pregnancy spread, only Ethan, the dowager lady, and I were truly happy. The dowager lady's attitude toward me changed. She became sincerely kind. Chan went mad. When she came to greet me, her eyes fixed on my belly with hatred. My attendants were frightened. My maid and my nurse both urged, "My lady, forbid her from entering the main courtyard again. She is the Marquis's beloved concubine. I said calmly. Her daily greeting is proper courtesy. If I forbid it, the blame will be mine. My maid grew anxious. But your life is at stake. She knows martial arts. Even before you married, she dared to provoke you at the Duke's gates. I thought for a moment. Go to the storeroom. Bring out what we prepared as dowry. My nurse and maid understood. They nodded and left. Soon after, heavy snow fell again. Ethan returned from court with food. He came in with snow in his hair, smiling like a boy. This is hot sour noodles. Eat while it's warm. I thanked him, though I had no appetite. Chan sent her maid twice to summon him. Ethan told the maid to return. The snow was heavy. He would not go. The next day, Chan herself came in a crimson cloak, beneath it riding clothes of the same bright red. She was like a red plum blossom standing out in the snow. Yu also came and paused at the sight. In my courtyard stood a swing covered in snow. Chan stepped inside and smiled at me. Claire, do you know, I miscarried twice. I can no longer bear children. The whole room fell silent. Impudent, I said calmly. Chan, you've been in the capital half a year. You should know the rules by now. Shouting in this way, do you want to kneel in the ancestral hall again? She laughed wildly. The general told me he does not like children. He and I have been together for years. We will rely on each other until old age. But now you are pregnant. Her laughter turned to tears. With you carrying his child, his whole heart will fall on you. Do you think he doesn't love children? Claire, the general is only resting for a year. He will soon leave the capital again. Tell me, will he still take me with him then? As she spoke, she suddenly drew a long whip. The maids screamed. Chan was trained in martial arts. Even the guards might not stop her, let alone the maids of the inner courtyard. My attendants threw themselves in front of me, taking lashes across their faces and arms, blood seeping through their clothes. We stumbled in panic. I nearly fell. Chan laughed cruelly. You useless noble lady, what right do you have to give him airs? He will not stay in the capital. He will leave with me. She rushed at me. At that moment, I stopped retreating. Snow slid off the swing frame, revealing a heavy bow weighing about 15 kilograms, 30 jin. I raised it and aimed at her. Enough! Drop the whip and kneel, or I will spare you no more. She sneered. What can you do? The twang of the bowstring cut her words short. The arrow pierced her shoulder and drove her body against the pillar of the main hall, pinning her there. Blood spilled across the snow. Servants swarmed in. The dowager lady rushed in, furious. When Ethan was called back, he arrived to see her nailed to the pillar, screaming in pain. Without a word, he pulled the arrow free and carried her out. The dowager lady shouted, Stop! How long will you indulge her? Look at your wife, look at your servants, whipped bloody, look at your proper wife. Ethan paused, then left carrying Chan. That afternoon she was sent away. Ethan said she was returning to the frontier. But in truth, with her wounds and the harsh winter, the journey was deadly. She died on the road. I personally burned that bow. Its purpose was complete. I hope never again to need it inside the inner courtyard. Chapter 7. In the second year after I married into the Marquis of Yongchang's household, just after the beginning of autumn, I gave birth. After suffering through a full day and night of labor, I bore a son. At the child's 3-day ceremony, my mother and sister-in-law came to visit me. I never expected you to live so well here, my mother said with relief, patting my hand. The matter of Chan was regarded by outsiders as nothing more than inner court affairs. Few knew the truth. They only heard that the Marquis had dismissed a beloved concubine who had followed him for years. Another concubine, Yue, still managed household affairs, but she and I stayed out of each other's way. And now I had given birth to the legitimate heir. An imperial marriage, which had seemed fraught with danger, had turned out smooth for me. My parents, once so worried, could now rest easy. Mother, I told you I could handle it, I said. To be the legitimate wife of a marquis, 3 things were essential. First, to bear children. Second, to hold authority in household affairs. Third, never to fall in love with one's husband. 2. I had a son, and I did not love Ethan Zhou. Once I took the household accounts from Yue, my path would be fully clear. In the future, I would live quietly, like the dowager lady, dignified and secure as the noble wife of a great house. While still in confinement, I used the excuse of finding a wet nurse for my son to claim partial authority over the household accounts. The dowager lady agreed. Yu's face turned ugly. Though I had only taken a small share of power, Yue already felt threatened. My nurse asked me, "What will you do?" She doesn't want to give up control. And the dowager lady hesitates, since Yue has managed the house for years without serious mistakes. Because Yue and the dowager lady were of one mind. Yue was a concubine, but with no children, her only reliance was the dowager lady. The dowager lady understood this well. Therefore she wanted Yue to stay in charge, to check and balance me. I planted the seed of anxiety in Yue from the day I entered this household, I told my nurse. Now, I will continue to press it. On my wedding day, I had told Yue that if she bore a child, she could not continue to manage the household. Later, in front of Chan, I had reminded her of her childless state. Now, with a legitimate son in my arms, I could drive Yue to madness. When I finished my confinement, the family dined together. Yue stood behind us like a steward, serving food. I said to the dowager lady, "The inner residence is too quiet. With only one child, we should take in 2 more concubines for the Marquis to bear him more heirs." Ethan looked at me silently. The dowager lady watched me carefully, trying to judge my intent. "Oh, and Yue," I added as if just noticing her. "She cannot. She manages the household. She has no time to serve the Marquis." The dowager lady was about to reply when Ethan slammed his chopsticks on the table. "Enough," he said coldly. The table fell silent. That night, after we returned to our chambers, my nurse brought the baby to me. I played with him until Ethan, having changed, came in and took him into his arms. Looking at the child's features, he suddenly said, "He resembles you more, Claire. His mouth is like mine, his eyes and nose like the Marquis," I replied. Ethan said, "He seems hungry, have him taken away." He then dismissed everyone from the room. When we were alone, he asked, "Claire, why did you say such things at the table?" "What things?" "About taking concubines for me." I answered, "I was sincere, my lord. I only thought." Before I could finish, he gripped my chin fiercely. "Your sincerity is to bring me more women?" His gaze was sharp as ice. I had never seen him so terrifying, and my heart trembled. "Claire, you are heartless," he said. Then he rose and left. For the next several days he slept alone in the study. Yu seized the chance to send him supper. But several days later, the dowager lady quarreled violently with him, her voice shaking with rage. "Where is she?" "She is already dead," Ethan replied coldly. The dowager lady's voice trembled. "She was bestowed on you by the late Empress Dowager. How dare you act on your own, you unfilial son?" "She poisoned me," Ethan said. The dowager lady fell into her chair in shock. Yue was indeed dead. To outsiders, it was said she had gone to the countryside to recover from illness. Later, they would say she died of lingering sickness. I received the household accounts. After only a year, I was firmly established as the Marquis's wife. I had the air and full authority. Those who once laughed at me now respected me. My cousins and aunts were astonished. I became known in the capital for my success. Half a month later, Ethan returned to my chambers. He embraced me and said, "Claire, you may have no heart, but I do. Forget it." He kissed me fiercely and pressed me down on the bed. "But if you ever scheme against me again, you will die," he warned. I had staged the drama from the start. After Chan left, Ethan was infatuated with me. He was passionate, and I knew it well. So in front of him, the dowager lady, and everyone, I proposed taking concubines for him. He would be furious. For when a man loves deeply, he cannot bear to see his wife offer him rivals. I had provoked him deliberately, driving Yu into desperation. She tried to drug him. I switched her drug, turning it from a stimulant into poison. Her fate, whether confinement, losing authority, or death, was not mine to decide, but Ethan's and the dowager lady's. If he wanted his mother to continue controlling the household, he would spare Yu. If he wanted me to manage, Yu would die. Ethan chose the latter. Only then did he realize I had used his jealousy. I carried out my plan calmly. He must have understood that I did not seek love. I was mistress of the house. I would respect him, that was all. So he compromised. He stopped fighting with me. He did not demand my love. Moment, he refused to take new concubines. I thought we had reached stability. He would manage the outside, I the inside. Together we would go on until old age, but things did not turn out as I imagined. Chapter 8. When my son was 1 year old, I became pregnant again. This pregnancy was difficult. From the 5th day of my missed period, I began to vomit. The heat of late summer made me weak, and Ethan grew anxious. He wanted to stay by my side, but suddenly he received a secret report. For several days he did not return home. The Dowager lady sighed. If Yue were still here, things would be easier. You cannot tolerate others. Mother, I said, I have offered many times to bring in new concubines, but he would not agree. And Yue, she was not killed by me, but by him. The one who could not tolerate her was your son. The Dowager lady was shocked that I dared answer her so. She accused me of arrogance, but I was too ill to argue. By the 8th day of Ethan's absence I sensed something was wrong. There must be great trouble, I told my maid. That night, a violent storm broke. Thunder roared. From the distance came the clash of weapons. I immediately gathered my child and the Dowager lady into the main courtyard, ordering the guards to defend the gates with their lives. What is happening? The Dowager lady asked, pale but steady. Before, when I returned to my parents' home, I overheard my father and brother. The imperial consort's family planned to support the crown prince in seizing power. The emperor intends to depose him. The crown prince and his in-laws are secretly plotting rebellion. Fortunately, I had not married the crown prince back then. The Dowager lady clenched her hands, her expression grave. If there is chaos, others will take advantage. I nodded. Outside, the capital was in turmoil. Rain poured, but the sound of killing did not cease. Bandits mingled with rebels and stormed noble households. Our gates, too, were breached. I took up my bow again. When a man climbed the wall, I shot him through the brow. The guards fought desperately. By dawn, half were dead. Just then, Ethan returned, leading only a few men. He fought with a spear like a god of war. I loosed arrows at his side, but we were outnumbered. Exhausted from battle at the palace, Ethan was weakening. The masked leader of the rebels broke through, aiming for the main courtyard. Ethan blocked him and took a deep cut to the back. My arrow pierced the leader's throat. When I pulled off the mask, I saw Chan's face. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. I knew she would not die so easily. The Dowager lady seized his hand. The physician is coming. He forced his eyes open. Mother, do not make things hard for Claire in the future. Tears streamed down her face. I won't. Then he turned to me. Claire, I answered softly. He called my name once more, and he died in the first light of dawn. The morning sun, bright and clear after the storm, shone on his bloodied body. The great general, who had fought for 14 years, did not fall on the battlefield, but to schemes in his own home. The crown prince was dead. Many noble families were slaughtered. The streets ran with blood. Ethan's death was drowned in the chaos. I vomited bitterly, then arranged his funeral. Because he had defended the emperor, Ethan was posthumously made a prince. The Marquis's household became a princely estate. The Dowager lady and I were granted titles of first-rank lady. We received gold and land, and I became the most wealthy, exalted widow of the dynasty. The next summer, I gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Now, Ethan and I had 3 children. Chapter 9. The morning after Ethan died, the capital was filled with the smell of blood. The crown prince had been killed, and many noble families were slaughtered during the chaos. Arranging Ethan's funeral fell to me. While vomiting from grief and pregnancy, I personally oversaw all the details. Because he had defended the emperor, Ethan was posthumously named a prince. The Marquis of Yongchang's household was raised to a princely estate. The emperor granted us 500 taels of gold and vast landholdings. I became the widow of a prince, and the Yongchang estate became the wealthiest house in the dynasty. But such wealth tasted bitter. The man I had relied on was gone. Chapter 10. The following summer, I gave birth to twins, 1 boy and 1 girl. Together with my eldest son, I now had 3 children. The Dowager lady and I raised them quietly. We no longer took part in social affairs. The household was peaceful, focused only on family. And I did not feel lonely. Because in my heart, Ethan still lived. When he was alive, I had never wanted to love him. He was only my duty, my match decreed by the emperor. But after his death, the memories of him remained, especially that night in the mountain hot springs, snow falling outside, when for a moment it seemed there was no one in the world but the 2 of us. That night became my secret treasure. Chapter 11. In the years that followed, I often went to Ethan's tomb. I brought pastries that I baked myself as offerings. They were as sweet as the ones we once shared together. I told our children stories of their father's valor, so they would always honor his memory. Though he was gone, his shadow still shaped the future of our family. The dowager lady grew old peacefully, surrounded by grandchildren. The household remained safe and respected. And I lived on as the widow of a prince, wealthy, unassailable, but quiet. Chapter 12. Sometimes I thought of Yuo and Chan. Both had fought with all their strength, but in the end, neither secured their place. In the end, I stood where they longed to be. Not because of love, but because of patience and calculation. Love is fragile. Only children in power endure. And yet, Ethan, though I had not loved him when he was alive, after he was gone, I found myself cherishing the traces he left behind. Chapter 13. Years passed. Every festival, I visited his grave. Every season, I brought our children to bow before him. I raised them carefully, repeating Ethan's last words as our family's teaching. Protect your household. Protect your kin. And in my heart, I carried him, forever framed in that one memory, a snow-covered mountain, the steaming hot springs, his arms around me, his low voice calling my name. In that moment, the world held only the two of us. A husband who died young became the ideal husband, for in death he remained perfect, untouchable, eternal.